Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Looking around a little bit confused here. I'm trying. Oh, sure I got everything together. Got my bunny shirt on for Easter. No, bunny rabbits aren't really about Easter. It's not what Easter's about, and people will say, "Well, Easter's not really about the resurrection. It's pagan, whatever." I mean, for me, I like rabbits. I like chickens. I like whatever, dude. It's all good, dude. Whatever. And I like Jesus, and I like the resurrection. Got a lot to talk about today. Got to get people ready because we got a lot to talk about. There's things that I can talk about and things that I can't talk about that I wish I could talk about. And there's a lot of stuff I wish I could talk about. I wish I could give you the absolute names, places, coordinates of what we're going to talk about tonight. But unfortunately, I can't give you the whole 411, because this isn't really the platform that is, just, oh God, it's hard. Anyways, I'm gonna do what I can, and then y'all can maybe try to figure it out. I don't do the best you can. No drama. Nobody said something about drama. No drama. Okay, we're doing the best we can to keep the drama out. People were asking me about my post on Facebook. I was just venting, dude. I have when my mother passed away, tomorrow was my mom's birthday. Would have been my mom's birthday. She was born on April 13th. And I wish that I could, of course I wish I had my mother. Wish I had her back. Wish she was here still. This will be the first birthday that I won't be able to call her and tell her happy birthday and talk to her or go see her. Because I mean, the last couple of years I couldn't because of the pandemic. But at least could call her, So tomorrow will be a bit of a challenge, but you know what? I'm a strong person. What I vented about on Facebook has nothing to do with the show. I'm upset with my sister. It's not Regina. That's Anthony's mother. I'm really close with her. This other sister of mine, I just had no idea the depths that people will stoop to for when it comes to monetary gain. When it comes to money, people will do anything. Will do absolutely anything. They will just, and I realize now that what kind of person my earthly father is and was, and how despicable. I mean, like the depths of how low he can go, hit a new low, and how low that my sister could go is like, but when he's old and he needs somebody, that's all he's gonna have is her, and she does not care. She made jokes about my mom dying before my mother died, because that's the kind of person that she is. That I think she really wanted my mother to die so she wouldn't have to deal with her. My sister is what you would call a sociopath. Like, she has confessed to me and my wife that when people talk about family members dying or bad things happening to people, that she doesn't feel anything and she doesn't really know how to react. So that was an interesting conversation on the way home. This was about 3 years ago, and me and my wife were talking, and my wife's like, you believe she said that? And I'm like, yeah, I grew up with this person. I took beatings for her, which she obviously had no appreciation for. And so she's hijacked my comic book collection, and when I tried to reach out to my dad, we want to call him that, the man that helped with the material to bring me into the world, they started cussing me out. I just said, look, just give me what's mine. He has stuff that's mine. She has stuff that's mine. I was like, if y'all could just be nice enough to give me what's mine. I mean, sister already looted my mom's jewelry. She took the life insurance. She basically took everything that, that wasn't nailed down. She'd already looted through everything, and then told me and Regina we could go and take what was left, which there wasn't anything. She took everything of value. I managed to get two rings that I had given my mother. Everything else was the fake jewelry, stuff that I didn't know what it was. I was like, this is Avon or something. So that's what that post was about. And then I have a comic book collection that's worth about 15 to 20 grand. Just from talking to Bart Nunley and Elijah Henderson on the phone, I was going through the checklist of comics that I had, and there were some pretty heavily priced comics in that collection. And yeah, she just decided, and then she told my dad that my mom sold it. My mom told me before she passed that they were there, and the last time I was there at her house, I saw them in the storage building. My mom didn't know what I had. She wouldn't have sold them. And I honestly should have had the wherewithal to take them at that time, but I did not, because I didn't think that she would do that to me. I thought they're mine. Okay, despite everything else she's done, she obviously surely wouldn't do that. But she did. And she lied and told, I think she lied and told my dad that, that my mom had did that. And he's not wanting to cooperate and help. But, an abusive individual who cares only for himself and his wife. That's all they care about. So that's what that was about. And there's no drama coming to you guys from anybody. It's just that's if anybody's wondering about that post, which multiple people had commented on there. And what's sad is how many of my listeners and friends and family have been screwed over by people. It was sad to read the 150 comments or whatever it was of people saying, yeah, my brother did this to me, my sister did this to me, when my step parent did this to me. One lady said that when her dad died, that the step parent left all the kids $1 and took everything else. And it's sad, dude. It's just, but God is real, karma is real, and what's going to happen to them is far beyond anything I could do. People were giving me advice, go get a lawyer, and I could tie it up and call it and say, look, she took the life insurance. She did give me some. It was a paltry little amount, and she took the rest. And I was fortunate, I guess, to get that. Because Regina didn't get anything, which she should have, because she helped take care of my mother. And I paid for everything for my mother, including her mortgage and different things at the end there. And then when she went I funded her going to live down there. But my mother backed the wrong horse. She chose to be close to the viper. That always happens, it seems like. They always end up choosing. And she confessed that to my wife before she passed. And she also confessed to me and my wife that she needed to change the life insurance thing, that she had gone along with what my sister wanted. She admitted that. I thought my sister would do the right thing. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was just caught up in the emotions that we were all in it together, and we weren't. And I thought, surely she'll do the right thing. And I thought that, maybe her husband or somebody would step up and make her do the right thing, but that didn't happen. And I'm sorry that everybody that's had to go through this kind of situation. It's sad when you realize how many people have dealt with this. It's awful. I don't wish it on anybody unless you deserve it. But it is one of those things we have to go through as people. There are people who are literally just don't care. They'll do anything for money. It's really foolish to sit there and watch these people do what they're doing, because you're going to pay for it. I would not suggest anybody doing these kind of things to people, because you will pay for it. You're going to pay for every single thing. I want to talk about that for a second, because in Christianity, there's this, I can pretty much go out and murder people and then I can pray, and Muslims too. I mean, it's like, I can pray and then all is forgiven. Not quite. there is karma, and you still will pay for it. And whether you're a Christian and you believe in it or you don't believe in it, it doesn't matter. It's going to happen. You will pay for every ounce of your sin. And I think that the ancient church taking out reincarnation was a big problem, because then it was like, oh, well, you die, you just go to heaven or hell, which is not the case. And, you know, they didn't want, and you can be as bad as you want, and then you pray and everything's done and you go to heaven. That's not how it works. That's what Mardi Gras is. It's just like you sin a whole bunch, and then you go and you pray on Ash Wednesday, and all is forgiven, then you behave for a little while through Lent until Easter. That's not how life works. It's not how the nature of reality works. And I'm not a professional or an expert on reality, but I know a lot more about reality than the average bear. And I can tell you that the very nature of reality is not the way you would think it is. And I'm not a pagan. I'm not bagging on anybody who is, or their religion or your beliefs or whatever. I'm not a Buddhist, but I do believe in karma, and I do believe in reincarnation. Some people don't want to agree with that. Well, you don't agree with it. That's all up to you. But you will have to come back again and again, and the Kali Yugas was what we're in, the time of destruction. And the further we go into it, the less fun it's going to be to come back. And ultimately, you don't get it right, then you will go to hell. Hell realm. It may be for who knows how long. There's different thoughts, different schools of thought. Even theologians in Christianity and Muslim and Islam debate about what it really, how long it is, and what it is. And there's a lot of morality issues here at play. But I encourage everyone to get themselves right with God in the way that you know how. But I believe, and the way I believe is that no one can come to the Father unless they go through the Son, and that's Christ. And I think that Christ is the only way. But doesn't mean necessarily that when you die you go to hell. It just means you keep coming back until you find the path, and then you get on that path and you search out the light, then you go to where you need to be. That's my view. And it's, it's a work in progress, because the more that I learn, the more things, But there's a preacher that I wanted to talk about real quick, and it's about Dogman. It's about werewolves. I'm going to get into that tonight, and about vampirism too. A lot of weird stuff to talk about tonight. And we're going to talk a little bit about shadow people. We're going to bring on some guests, and this guy's going to talk about his possible Bigfoot, maybe Dogman. We don't know for sure. But we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff tonight, and so we need to get started here. Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That's the email address, and prtpodcast.com. That's the website, and then we have a mailing address. And let me see if I can find that and I can read it to you. I did get some cool stuff. I got some cool things that got mailed to me. I had a sculpture that somebody had sent me. A guy named Jesse Waters. He did a great job, and I'm hoping to work with this guy. He does an amazing job. 6001 West Parmer Lane, Suite 370, PMB 131, Austin, Texas 78727. That's my mailing address. Once again, 6001 West Parmer Lane. Parmer is Parmer. Parmer. Suite 370, PMB 131, Austin, Texas 78727. Also, hit me up on Facebook, but let me know that you're a listener of the show so that I can approve you, because otherwise, and I'm going to ask this a favor from you listeners. I love you to death. Trust me, I look at you as extended family. I'm not joking. Okay? But if I don't really know you that well, and you try calling me on Messenger, I'm probably not going to answer, and that's happened multiple times. I don't want to sound like, I try to be a man of the people and try to be as hands-on with my fans as possible. I will try to answer you if you message me. Most people will tell you that I will message them back, and I have taken thousands of people's messages, trust me, and hundreds of people's stories. And I've retold a bunch of their stories, and they can attest to that. But what I don't want is somebody, and I'm a night owl, so it's not about the time you call. Calling late at night is not a problem. It's that I don't really know you that well, and you're calling me, and so then some people get upset. Some people are like, oh, okay, I understand. But other people, they get upset if I don't answer the phone, and I'm like, look, dude, I don't really know you that well, you know. And I've had some crazy stuff happen. I've had people threaten me. I've had people threaten to kill me. All right, I'm not everybody's favorite person. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. And so, I understand that. And that being said, people have threatened me and threatened my life, and I'm like, I'm not a big fan of death, So, not saying that if you're calling me, that's what you're trying to do. But yeah, some people, they get really weird and upset if I don't talk to them or answer them, and they say things and do things. And so it's just best if you get in touch with me first through Messenger, send me a message before you try calling me. That's what I'm asking. If you could just do that, that'd be a big help. And I appreciate everybody, everything. And like I said, donations are not expected, but they are appreciated, and they are used to keep the show going. That is what they are. They are basically just, we put the money right back into the show. Okay, we literally put in, I thought it was 4, I think it's 5 or 6 times the amount of money we got last year. We put it right back into the show. Through giveaways, through promotions, through everything, we are putting all this money back into the show so we can continue to grow the show. That's what this is all about. So anyways, we do have a $20 tier on the Patreon now. Anthony, you set that up? Anthony set it up. You want to say how it works real quick, or do you want?
So the $20 tier is same as the $10 tier. You get all the perks from that same $10 tier and the $5 tier. But in addition to those perks, you also get a one-time gift of like a PRT merchandise, like a hat, shirt, hoodie, just whatever we have.
And that's automatic with your first $20 that you put on there, and it's a $20 monthly donation, whatever you want to call it, to support the show, and we will give you a shirt or a hoodie if it's cold. It's not cold right now, but if it, and whatever we got on hand, if we got some PRT merch, we will give it to you. We will send it to you. We appreciate everyone and anyone that's associated with our show. Okay, and I do believe I sent out some. Let me say this real quick. I just mailed off like different stuff. I just sent some stuff. Curtis Turner, I don't know if you're listening, but thank you for all you've done for me. And I sent you something really cool, and I'm gonna see if I can look this up here. Yeah, Alicia Drunk, you were sent your stuff today. Curtis Turner, I sent your stuff today. Dale Pendigayash, I'm trying to say your name correctly. I don't want to mess it all up. Sent your stuff out. And Garrett Stevens and Amy Kennedy. Amy, you won the Linda Godfrey book. Now, folks, those books are very valuable. Because I don't know how many more there'll be. And so everyone that I have is precious to me. And so I sent you one. So it's a big deal to get one of those. Okay. And I do have plans to go with Barton to go up there to visit her. I hope everybody's enjoying the show that I've done with the last 2 episodes that I've done last 2 weeks with Bettina Moss. Part 3 has already been recorded, of course, and it'll be released on Friday. And I got good news. After that, we're gonna do a one-off, and it's gonna be either a potluck or a not deer episode. I'm waiting on another story for the potluck, so we don't know yet for sure. But after that, you're going to get 2 episodes of the Hernandez Ranch that we've worked really hard researching and talking with these people to bring you these stories. the real stories, not just the overviews that we did on the other show. On this show, we're going to tell you the real. We're laying it out there, and so yeah, and that will center around Jerry, my original contact with that family. And so there's 2 episodes coming for that. So we have this week, this Friday with Bettina Moss, and then the next week will be probably not deer, but maybe paranormal or potluck, because I don't, if I can get this guy's story. And then 2 weeks, 2 Fridays in a row of Hernandez Ranch. And then after that, we have another standalone episode, and then we'll have 2 weeks with Kevin Panay about Hawaiian mythology and shark shape-shifting shamans. Really cool stuff we're going to be talking about. Really interesting. So we're going to get into all that. And I got so many people lined up to record with and so many things I got to get done. Talked to my friend Lyle Blackburn earlier today. He's supposed to come on the show next Tuesday to talk about his podcast. His podcast is dropping tomorrow. And I don't know exactly what, like he said, it may not be on all the platforms right away or whatever. So he's going to come on next Tuesday and we're going to talk about it. And he's going to give you the 411 on that. So I think it's kind of like a soft release tomorrow or something. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited for him. I did talk to him about doing a podcast, and I'm glad he went for it. Here's one thing I wanted to say too. People have said asked me questions about the situation with the action figures and with Charlie. And I talked to Lyle about that today. And I'm going to say this right now on the air, okay? His deal is paranormal and plastic, okay? But the idea for the action figures and making multiple action figures of cryptids and of people was my idea. I want to be very clear about that. And that's something that me, Ken, Lyle, Barton, all of us talked about, and is that, we asked him repeatedly to stop making figures of, because we were trying to make an action figure line, and we were going to give him, he was at the helm to be able to sculpt these. It was him and one other person we were going to deal with. And we were only about 15,000 short to make the plates. And we were going to do it out of Vietnam. And Charlie, I tried to rein him in over and over again and asked him to stop making figures of all these people. I mean, I don't know who these people are. And so I'm going to just clear this up once and for all, because I got 100 people asking me about this. He continued to make figures of every single person that asked. And that's fine. If you want a figure, go to Charlie. He'll make you one. But it was a short-sighted thing, because I am not going to deal with him anymore when it comes to doing these projects. And I understand if you want to make one of your friend or something like that, but to make figures of every single person that considers themselves a podcaster or a researcher or whatever they consider themselves, and they're all using them as their profiles and all that, that was my idea. He facilitated it because he was good at what he was doing, and I promoted it. But we were supposed to work together on this, and I kept telling him to stop doing that, and he wouldn't stop doing that. It just seemed like he was hell-bent on making money, which is fine. I'm, entrepreneur, capitalist, whatever he is. Go make money. But I'm not going to support it, because all them figures of all those people and all that has nothing to do with me. What I wanted was a set number of people and then a set number of figures of cryptids. And so he stepped on our toes, and I've talked to my colleagues about it, and they were all on board, and now everybody's like, we're not funding this, because now everybody's got a figure. So he destroyed it. So that's what I'm going to say about that, and I don't want to have to talk about it again. And now, I don't have a problem with him personally. People have bandied about, oh, well, you should sue him. Well, yeah, I should probably sue my sister. I should probably sue him. I should probably sue the world. I'm not into that unless that's what they want. But, and I'm not here to bring up beefs or fight or whatever, but it was unfortunate because, D-Pocalypse says, if you ask me, those action figures were stupid, got out of hand real quick. It wasn't supposed to, Mr. Apocalypse, okay? Apocalypse, whatever your name is. It wasn't supposed to be that way, okay? It was supposed to be like 7-8 people, and then 7-8 cryptids, and then we were gonna do something maybe like a dual thing, whatever, and then it got out of hand. Yeah, because he started making all kinds of stuff that I don't even know what all it was. And I kept asking him to slow it down, to chill out, and he refused. He just continued to pump away, and even insulted me with some of it by talking about this other guy was the greatest podcaster he'd ever heard, whatever. Well, who am I? I don't think you should say that because you're supposed to be my friend, and you basically slapped me in the face and said that. And I feel insulted, for one thing, and then I also was expected to front all the money for this, the thing that goes to the museum, whatever. Which I don't think is fair because, anyways, done with that. We're not doing it anymore. It did not, people don't do what you ask. All it is, that's all it is. That's all there is to it. I just can't even stress it enough. You come up with a great idea and there's, and then someone destroys it because they want to make money or whatever it is they're trying to do. And so that's all there is for that. I'm done with it. So that's done, but we are going to move in another direction. We're going to try and do these little mini figures with a friend of mine that she sculpts for a toy company, and we're going to hope that that'll go through. I don't know if anybody remembers the little muscle figures from back in the 80s. If you don't know what that is, look them up. Look up little muscles action figures. That's what these are going to be. And they're going to be figures of like me and the guys. And then, of course, the cryptids. That's going to be the main focus. So that's the direction we're going in. And I'm not supportive of this other stuff, all these thousands of things he's making that are just not. Anyway, we're going to read the Patreon. Jim Kovach, Cassidy Lee, Kenny Irish, Josh and Kelly Herrera, Vulcan Death Grip, David Allman, Christy, Shonda Hardinger, Brady Matsunaga, Cyril, okay, David Vigil, Fat Squatch, Sonia Girding, Dorothy Metcalf, Mimi Piccolelli, Polly G, Melissa Koyman, Pauline Rome, Mary Plyler, Stephen Hall, Miguel Guetta, Eric Garcia, Tim Lewis, Super Hornet 1, Debbie Wolf, Extreme Reality Check, James Estrada, Tim Bernard, Ricardo Herrera, Titan, Dead Man Walking, Russell Nash, Guy, Melissa Panay, Derek Tribble, Dick Richards, Joyce Brunette, Barbara Blindy, Martin Hertel, Terry Fusler, Chris Clough, Curtis Turner, Philip Morn, Alexander Murphy, and Matthew Durgo. Thank you, folks, for helping make this show what it is. And Depocalypse 22, thank you for that donation. I appreciate it. And I don't think the idea was stupid because it was my idea, so I'm not going to sit here and say it was stupid. But it did get out of hand. So I do agree with that part. It wasn't supposed to. It was a dream. I just wished would have come, but whatever. We'll figure it out. We'll come up with something else. But we're looking at a guy who can actually sculpt statues, and so that may be something else too. Because a lot of these figures, they just sit in the plastic anyway, and you just put them up on a shelf. You don't take them out and mess with them. You don't. They're action figures, but you don't really take them out and goof around with them. They're not made for that. They're like be kept in a plastic, and then you put them up on a shelf or the wall or something like that. And so to preserve them. So I mean that's what a lot of people that collect figures do. They're not really to be played with. So making a statue might be something that's an alternative. Anyways, recently somebody posted on my Paranormal Round Table group. They said that there was a preacher that was talking about being a vampire at one time, and he was a Mason. He did all this stuff, and so anyway, he was a member of an order called the Satanic Brotherhood, and he talked about how werewolves, shapeshifters, vampires are all real. They're not all real in the way that you would totally way you would totally think, but like it's made some wild claims that he was able to ascertain powers and do things that other people could only dream of doing. And when he got to a certain level, they asked him if he wanted to become more than human. basically. So he said yes, and according to him, he became vampiric, and he did begin to consume blood. And he claims on that video that he actually, I don't agree with everything he says. He says a lot of stuff, and he keeps focusing on the Twilight films because at that time the Twilight films were real popular. But back when he was making the rounds and talking about all this stuff, and he talks about how he saw werewolves. Well, I've got probably a dozen people who've told me that they have seen werewolves, and they believe. And one of them came on my show once, Carrie Eaton, and they believe that these people were actual werewolves, not just a dog man that's there that way all the time. Now I'm going to tell you what I think about werewolves and dogmen. When I first started doing this, I fully believed that when I first started going on to DER and talking about these things, I fully believed that these were flesh and blood, and that there might have been a spiritual or demonic aspect to that, but I did not really believe that they were shapeshifters. But then, over time, over several years, I'd say probably over the last 7-8 years of just getting report after report after report of weirdness, I started to kind of change my stance a little bit. I got to the point where I actually started to think maybe there could be something to this. And I even had a security guard who came forward recently and has told me that they absolutely fall in them. That absolutely they are real. And he worked at a very large computer company. Now, one of my friends was the overnight security there, and I don't know if you guys remember a friend of mine calling into the show and talking about this very large company that he worked for, and we are not at liberty to say, but that he was in the elevator and he saw this guy's face change. But he made it a point to say that this person was in the elevator with him. He was alone, and he was looking at his phone, pretending like he wasn't seeing it. But this person's face was changing, and it was very reptilian-like. Well, I had a friend that worked at that same building who said, "Hey, there's this woman that works here, and she claims that during a time when these higher ups had visited." That when she was waiting to, she came in early in the morning, about 4 or 5, and she was waiting to go into the building. And this building is surrounded by about 35 acres, something like that. And I did an investigation with my brother, with Anthony, and with Nellie. And we talked to these people. And this one person said that the woman was waiting to go into the building, and I know this guy. And so he got me in touch with her. Now, she is terrified of being, like, put her name out there, and it was hard enough to try to get her to talk about it, but she told us she saw a werewolf-looking creature, something that was black, and it was just kind of jogging along, and it stopped and looked at her, and she was parked on the outside of the very back of the parking lot. She was by herself, and she was on the phone with her husband. And she was telling she was engulfed in a conversation and enthralled by her conversation. She was telling her husband, tell the son that his sports equipment is blah 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 to go to school, and then she just stops in the middle of what she was saying, and this thing looked right at her, and she felt like it was talking to her mentally, and it said, "You don't see me," and she's thinking, "Yes, I do." And so this thing stood. It was like she felt like she psychically, or how do you say it, like she answered it. And so it stood up on its hind legs and showed her all 8 feet of itself. And then it kind of walked into the woods on the hind legs. She said it was very sleek. It wasn't shaggy like a wolf. It was very short-haired, almost like a Dogman pincher, but it had a very wolf-like head. Kind of like Anubis, but like very big, very large. Okay, this person, I've had this story for probably about over a year now. When she was telling me this, I'm thinking this place is not. I mean, like I've heard this before. This stuff that goes on there, and we actually went to this place and we walked around this place, in the outside trails and everything around this building. Because, like I said, there's about 30 acres on that particular spot, and then there's a huge pasture that's privately owned, which I looked into. There's a guy that's a rancher. He's only got 10 head of cattle there, but he's right next door to it. Okay, and it's not that far from where we're at right now. Okay, so I'm not giving you coordinates or anything like that. Please don't think that. But this is just unusual. When something communicates with you, somebody just said telepathically. You don't get a lot of stories like that, but they do exist. And whenever you are sitting there in your vehicle, and then she's like, it was so stunning. And I forgot what I was talking about. John, thank you so much. You're always so generous. Donate like every show. It's crazy. I appreciate that, John. Thank you. Like I said, donations are not expected or whatever, but they're appreciated and they help the show continue. Without them, we would probably have to consider not doing this, at least the Tuesdays. So anyway, this individual, she was very upset, obviously. And then it was made more upsetting that at first her husband didn't really know whether to believe her, and and he was like, it's just so hard to believe because I've never heard anything like this. She hadn't either. Well, what I was able to tell her though was that she wasn't the first person that reported something strange out of that place, high strangeness going on, and it's not the only one in Austin. Austin is like a Silicon Valley too. Like a part two, we have all kinds of different companies here that are all, you name it, anything to do with computers, it's based here. And so we had another one. Thank you, Shonda, for that donation. Thank you so much. We had another story, and I'll get to that in a little bit. And if I forget, if I get sidetracked or whatever, which I'm prone to do, because I have so much going on in my mind, and trying to, read it all here and keep my notes together. Just remind me in the comments, say, hey man, what about this guy? But anyway, we're going to come back to this guy who actually can work for us at one point. So what happened is, while these executives were there visiting, all this took place around the same time. Okay, I did the math. I went back and I did the timeline. What are the odds? 2 security guards 2 days before this woman saw what she saw. Or I'm saying 2 days. It was 2 days after she saw what she saw. 2 security guards, one on the swing shift and one on the overnight shift, saw a large, gray, shaggy-looking werewolf-type creature step out of the woods. Okay? Now you think about it. The one that she saw was black. You had 2 different things, 2 different creatures. The other guards each saw one creature. And I've actually gotten a couple contacts at this place now, not just one. My original contact, I think, moved to another building. But anyway, I got in touch with this guy that used to be a friend of mine that worked for another friend of mine part time. We started talking about this, and I don't think it's a coincidence, folks. I don't think it's a coincidence that these people come, and then all of a sudden, people start seeing creatures in the woods around there. Now get this. I had a guy that I got in touch with that was a guard who was not part of the ones that saw it in the woods on that campus, whatever. But they got in touch with, they told me that this other guy had seen one like 3 or 4 years before. So when I got in touch with this individual, what he told me was that he was pulling out, okay, and this is not just like in the middle of the woods, okay. This is like, and I've been on about 3 different places to research these things. This isn't, there's apartment complexes and city around there that's built around there. When they first built it, it might have been, whatever, but now it's surrounded by whatever. And so anyway, 3 or 4 years ago, it was just like it is now. It was full of people, and of course there was construction going on everywhere. He's pulling out at 6 in the morning. I mean, at 11 o'clock at night after his shift was over, because the night guy comes in, and as he's taking a left out of the building, this giant wolf-like creature. Now, he didn't see it stand up on its hind legs. Just as one of the guards saw this giant thing on all fours and it didn't stand up, the other one did see it stand up, but we think it's the same creature, but different than the woman that saw what she saw and reported it to the head of security. When this guy was pulling out onto the road, this thing ran across the road in front of his. You know what he said? He said it was like an American Werewolf in London. He's like, this thing ran right across in front of my vehicle. And he goes, it looked at me and had its mouth wide open, and its eyes were red. And he goes, and the front, which should have been paws, looked like hands. But it ran very well on all fours and went across the road. He said it just looked like an evil, just something out of, just like he said, American Werewolf in London. He said it was awful. It just looked like a horrible creature. And he get home, and he told his sister lived with him at the time, him and his sister and his fiance. And he told him, and he said, he goes, I'm not kidding, dude. He goes, I had nightmares for days about it. And then my sister and my fiance, which is now his wife, started having nightmares. And he was willing to give me the story one time and then not talk about it again. I don't blame him. Who the heck wants to talk about that consistently? I get it. I prefer to talk to people who have stories 2, maybe 3 times. But sometimes people, they just don't want to. It's like, look, I'm going to tell you this one time and that's it. And I quit. Never worked there again. And so there was another place that a friend of mine, well, I guess they listened to the show, and he got in touch with me and said, hey, somebody that works over here saw this. There was another place, another security guard. We went and we investigated. We didn't see any werewolves. We did almost run into a spider web. But it's the same vein. You see what I'm saying? Now, I didn't ask him if there were executives in town or anything like that when this happened, because this was, I don't know how long ago this was. Maybe last summer or something. But I'm sitting there thinking, like, here we go again. Now, there was a place that's close to where I live that they've moved now. They're not in that building, in that area anymore. And we had a guard that actually worked there years ago, and he only worked for us for a very short time. But he worked at that building at one time. And it's no longer what it used to be. Now it's been bought, and they're turning it into like a complex or something. I don't know. But I got to know some of the security there through this guy. And he ran into Scorpion one day when Scorpion was sitting out by the bus, or maybe it was my brother. One of them were sitting out there leaving to go to work. And I think it was Gary. And so he went up to him, and they asked him if we were hiring. He said, yeah, we're hiring. He goes, why? And he goes, well, I work over here next door, but I'm done with this place. I don't want to work here anymore. There's a lot of creepy, weird stuff out here in these woods out here, and it is wooded, and especially at that time, which was about 12 years ago. It was in 2010, I believe. He said that it was just very creepy, and there was this weird looking thing that they would see in the garage, and there were 2 different parking garages. And he said that one of them he would do his rounds, and he would see it like move in the corner of his eye, and then one day he saw it full on, and it was just this humongous shadow hooded thing. And this is what he told me when we were working at another building off of Airport here in Austin. And that's the street where it was on, where our account was. And hey Anthony, can you get me a water? My mouth's really dry. I'm talking away here. I'm trying to give you this information. Appreciate it. Is that mine right there, or is that maybe that's another? Okay, that's mine then. You just grab me that one. I don't want to waste another. I'm not gonna waste them, but I need 2 of them open. So this guy, we'll call him Patrick. Okay, he worked for us. Okay, not a real long time, maybe 3 months, something like that. He was a part-time guy, and we were talking about this building that we worked at, and he says, "I don't want to work in no haunted building." And he had seen something at that building. Now I saw something at that building, not the one he used to work at by where we live, but anyway. He told me, he's like, dude, I saw this hooded, this shadow hooded thing, and he goes, and we would do rock paper scissors. There were 3 guards that would work every night, and he said, dude, we would do rock paper scissors and not have to do the garage. And he goes, and maybe twice a week I'd end up having to do it. And thank you for that, big pop evil pops where it says you and Tony Merkel, realest dudes in the field. Thanks for that donation. I appreciate it. They are greatly appreciated. But he said that when he was working over there was something else too. It wasn't just the shadow thing that they would see in the garage. He said that one day he was sitting in the parking lot in the golf cart, and this, what he thought was a person walking up, and he was like, he looks and he goes, oh, there's somebody walking up. So he put his phone down and he's like, can I help you? When he turns, he sees the shadow hooded thing, and then it's just gone. And then he's just like, he literally fell out of the golf cart. And so that two mornings later is when he saw Scorpion and said, hey, are you guys hiring? I'm going to apply for a job with you guys. And Gary's like, yeah, we're always hiring. So he worked for us. And eventually he went to work for another company, and and that's fine. He was used to working for those tech companies and making a lot more than I could pay him at that time. So it wasn't no hard feelings. And then he would still come back and work part-time for us off and on, every now and then he'd fill in. Work a shift here or there, but he wasn't full-time anymore. So we got to talking one night, and I told him about the shadow thing that I'd seen at that property that we were at that night. And he told me, he said there was something else there at that property. And he's like, I'll tell you about it one day. Well, kind of lost touch with him, and then not too long ago, probably three or 4 months ago during the pandemic, he hit me up and said, hey, do you got any work? And I was like, yeah, we're always needing people. And then right after that, he got a job working at another place. Not this time, not doing security. Another large company that does stuff, whatever. And so he went to work for them, and he said, well, thanks anyway, but I got a job, whatever. And how have you been? And I told him, and I said, hey, you never did give me your story, because we got interrupted that night when I had to go on a call, and I was doing patrol and stuff at that time. And so I said, we never got to talk about what you saw. And he goes, oh yeah, that's right. And I said, I have a show now, which he did not know. And he's like, really? And so then he started, telling me, he goes, well, what I saw, he's like, I remember you saying that you had seen a werewolf looking creature when you were young. And I said, yeah. And so I get so many people that tell me stories. What he told me was, he goes, I saw something similar to that, which is one of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things that led him to quit. Not only that, but it led 2 or 3 other guards to leave that place too. Because when they would go around the back side of the property, there was a heavily wooded area right there. Okay. And they would see this wolf-like creature. He said it wasn't overly large. It was about, 5 to 6 feet. It wasn't, maybe not even as tall as an average sized man. But he said that it looked feminine because it had teeth like a dog or whatever. But he said this thing would stand up on its hind legs and run into the woods when they would see it. And he said he saw it no less than 3 times. And he said it didn't look like a man wolf. He said it almost just looked like a really large, dirty, he described it, dirty looking coyote. But it had the ability to stand up on its hind legs and move and run around. And he said that you would see that outside, and then you would see this shadow thing running around in the garage. And so he was like, I'm done. I'm done with this place. I mean, it is ridiculous. So then, this is what he said. He said that one day, one of the people were the higher ups, whatever, they were working late. That he went in there to say, hey, I'm locking up, do you need anything, whatever, whatever on the floor. And this guy was very flustered. He was from India, the individual that was talking to him. And he told him, he says, do you believe in demons? And he goes, because I think I've seen one here. It's a very shocking revelation for somebody to just come to you and go, hey, I work here, and, I'm essentially one of the bosses here, and I'm confessing to you right now that I've seen a demon here. Okay, so Pat asks him, well, define what you mean by demon. What do Pat's like, I think people think he's crazy, gonna lose his job, I mean, at that time, he was making like $15 an hour in 2010. That's not nothing now. It's 2022. This was 12 years ago. $15 an hour is pretty good, plus benefits. And so he took a pay cut to come work for us because I couldn't pay that at that time. So anyway, he said, I've seen a demon, and he goes, this guy looked like he'd been up for 2 days. He's like, my first reaction was, too much coffee, man. You've had too much coffee, and I think you have something going on. He goes, but I couldn't tell this guy because he was like my boss's boss. And he says, have you ever seen anything? He says, this guy was a younger guy, about his age, but he was obviously, he was a higher up guy. And he said, he goes, if you've seen anything here, please tell me that I'm not crazy. He's like, I didn't want to say anything. He goes, but I went out on a limb and I said, okay, well, when I'm driving around the parking garage, I've seen this thing that looks like a black shadow. And he's like, when we put it in the report, we say, maybe, homeless vagrant and that they left the building. And he goes, I was wondering why y'all kept putting in the report. And then somebody had mentioned in the report that it was cloaked, like it had a cloak on. Okay, so whoever that was, they weren't on board. They just said, I saw some whatever, And he goes, well, I tried to put in the report as a homeless vagrant, but he goes, that's not what it was. So this guy says, what was it? He says, looked like a shadow from what I've, read and looked into. I think it's demonic or something, disappears or it goes into a cement wall. Sometimes it comes up out of the ground. And so this guy that worked there told him, yeah, I've seen this thing moving around in the building and in the hallway. Here was the interesting part that he told me. And he told me this the other day when we caught up a couple months ago. And what he said was the hooded figure had red eyes and a snout. What he said it looked like a person wearing a werewolf mask, wearing a cloak. But he knew it wasn't. And all he could see was a shadow and just the faintest outline. And he said he'd seen it twice. Both times, it was when one of the guys from Asia had come to visit the facility. It was their Asian contact. And he said the first time that he met this guy, the guy was wearing a necklace of Kali. Does anybody know who Kali is? Mention it in the comments if you know who that is. So, yeah, it's basically this guy was wearing a talisman of destruction, and you're sitting there going like, okay, he got a really bad vibe from this dude. This guy was this was the executive that worked. This was one of the bosses that worked there. He was working late. That would have been his boss's boss. And so he comes in, and then and after this guy was there for a few days, he sees this wolf-headed looking creature with a cloak on. So I asked Pat, I said, is there any way you can go back and ask any of those guys you worked with before? Any of those guys. And find out if they saw anything that looked wolf-like other than the weird-looking creature that would run around the back. And he said, okay. So a couple weeks ago, we get in touch. He gets in touch with me, and he sends me a quick email, or whatever, and we started talking. And he told me, he said there was one guy, and we'll call him Bill, okay? And Bill told him, he said, yes. Not only that, but what Bill claims he saw in the back was not just a weird-looking gray creature, because he said he saw it full on. And he said that this thing was laying on the ground, like rolling around. And when it stood up, it didn't have just the the body of a dog looking coyote wolf looking creature. It had the hind legs of a dog, and it had 2 sets of arms. He said he'd seen it twice before, but when that guy was there visiting from Asia, when he saw it that night, the first or second night the guy was there, he said he couldn't remember exactly which. He said that it had multiple arms and that it crawled off into the woods. So then when he talks to this guy, he said that there are legends in southern India of these creatures that are agents of the Kali Yuga. They're basically here to destroy. And that they are wolf-like creatures, kind of like the cynocephali, and that they actually do the bidding of bad people who are in charge. Now you go to this other guy, this preacher. This is how it's all connected. He goes, and I watched this video. And like I said, I don't agree with everything he said. I don't agree with everything. But he was making some of the stuff he was saying was truth. He was dropping some truth on there. Now, you can go back in the Paranormal Round Table group and go and find the video. I'm not going to get into it and even say his name. His real name, I think, is Bill something. And I'm not saying, like I said, 100% that this is all true. This is just what I was told. Okay. So this guy, he goes and he talks about these werewolves being real. He says he's seen one, this preacher, former Satanist, and said that he actually knew a guy that could shapeshift and turn into one of these things. And then once you get to a certain level, that you were granted that ability. Now, if you believe in this world as the Matrix, as a world of illusion, it's not so far-fetched. It's not like out of this weird, it's not like it's so weird that this could happen, because it very, very often I get stories of these creatures being shapeshifters, and I'm not joking. Now, let me tell you something else. I'm not bagging on other podcasters and authors and whatever else, but a lot of these people do get these stories, but they're too fantastical and they don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to put it in their books, and they don't want to freaking put it on their show because it's going to turn a lot of people off. Well, I'm not here to please everybody's whatever palate, okay? You can believe it or you cannot believe it, but I'm starting to lean toward there's something to this. And people say, oh, it takes an enormous amount of energy to blah, 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 blah. Yeah, okay, if you believe in the physicality of this world, it does. But I can tell you this. There is astral projection. I've seen it. And I've left my body multiple times, been doing it since I was a kid. Okay? And you see a lot of things when you're in that other world, and when you connect your consciousness from that consciousness to this, then you start to see, oh man, this is the real world when you leave your body. You see what it really is. And I believe my friends, one of my friends is Filipino, and he told me, and a friend of mine, he told me he saw the honeycomb pattern of the Matrix one time when he got really intoxicated. And then he was like sobered up and out of his body, wandering around a hotel. And I would think, oh man, that's just a weird story, one-off. No, it's not, because I've had other people tell me that too. Sometimes it involved inebriation of some sort, and sometimes it didn't. Sometimes it was just, hold on one second. Hey, Anthony. Hold on one second, folks. Duty calls. Perry's trying to get a hold of me, so maybe call him, find out what's going on. It's one of my security partners. So when you start to look at these stories and you start to think, I think there's something to this. I think there's something that I don't want to get too far in and grab a tiger by its tail. And then, but I do believe that there is something to this. I've heard people say that, a guy worked in a movie theater here in Austin, right outside of Austin. He goes out to take the trash out and he sees this werewolf looking thing looking at him from the woods. People driving home. right there by their house. You see this thing. I mean, it just, I mean, there's so many stories, so many people seeing these things. I just cannot be. And I had this conversation just on Sunday with a good friend of mine, Barton. We were talking about this. And he said, dude, like Occam's razor. I mean, the simplest answer is usually, I mean, like it's that they're telling the truth. They've seen these things because you're talking about thousands of people who've seen, that claim this. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Now, I'm not saying that everything you see is a werewolf because the Native Americans believe they're all skinwalkers. I got friends that believe they're werewolves. And I got friends that believe that they're Dogman, some sort of thing that stays that way all the time. And I personally don't really believe so much in that anymore because I have just gotten too many reports and I've heard too many things and I've seen too many things to think that that is what's going on because there's something to this and it's ramping up, folks. Now, I'm going to tell you something else. And we're going to visit this again in another episode. Once I do a little more research and you folks at home are welcome to do the research and send it to me and I can approve it or whatever. And we can talk about it because I'm swamped. I'm slammed. As you see, I'm getting calls from my security business. One of the things that I'm wondering about is not just, like, are these things coming from another dimension? Are they this? Are they that? Or whatever. For whatever reason, they're here. They exist. They're on our plane of existence. Okay. Many, many people have seen them, and there are people who see them pretty regularly. Okay. I'm not saying that they're all shapeshifters. I'm just saying that I believe they exist. Put it that way. And it seems more plausible to me than to have some species of Dogman thing that's just living out there like that all the time, running around. How did it come to be? Like, if it's just a wild creature that's living out there in the wild and it's part man, part, whatever. Now, the people that claim that it's flesh and blood, is if they've seen one, I'm not faulting them for seeing it and thinking, oh, you know what? Maybe that's a creature that exists all because it looks like it's just that way or whatever. But if you go back and you listen to J.C. Johnson, he talks pretty heavily about these creatures and how he believed toward the end of his life. He talked a lot about how they were shapeshifters, and he relayed that to Brenton. Brenton was a friend of mine, and Brenton started to believe that these things were shapeshifters of some kind. Of course, he passed away, but I'm starting to lean heavily toward there is an element there. That's what I'm saying. And I'm not, folks, I try to be one of the realest people on here. I try to be as blunt and frank and honest, with you. And I'm telling you right now, and I'm laying it out there, maybe you think I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs or whatever. But there is an element there there's something there that we can't, Now, that's not to say that there are not some biological specimens that are just that way. But the question is, how did they get that way? And one of my listeners, she mentioned something she said she'd be listening tonight. And she asked the question in the Paranormal Round Table group. Folks, if you're not in the Paranormal Round Table group on Facebook, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go join it because you get a ton of cool stuff. It's stuff to read in between the days where we're not talking. And I wish Brenton was alive today so he could talk about what he knew. Okay? And I wish JC was alive to talk about what he knew. But they're not, unfortunately. But they were starting to uncover the truth. And I Barton and Johnny Henderson, before Johnny died, you can ask Barton this too. We were all starting to go, hey, at least with Dogman, Bigfoot's its own animal, but I'm talking about Dogman. I'm talking about werewolves. You're starting to get a lot more people that are coming to me and they're saying there's something to this. And I don't know what we're dealing with. I thought I did, and now I don't. And you're getting so many reports now of a shapeshifter type being, or people that will see one and just go, that was a werewolf. That was not no Dogman or whatever you want to call that. That's not what we're dealing with. This is a werewolf. the guy that I was hanging out with the night that I saw what I saw, he always called it a werewolf. He never said it was a dogman. And when I say dog, he doesn't use that term. He still doesn't use that term. He, he's like, what is that? He goes, we saw a werewolf. That's what it was. And whether or not it was a man that was shape shifted or whatever, he believes it had something to do with demonic influence. He's now a preacher in my hometown. It's not hard to ascertain why they come to that conclusion. Things look like something out of The Howling or Van Helsing. And according to the tradition, and many traditions that I've studied, that's what they look like. The skinwalkers. They can turn almost completely into something, but not 100%. Now that's going to be the big question. Now we had Nick Valente come on, I believe last week. Maybe it was, I think it was last week. The other, and he's reevaluating what he saw after he got more information. You had Bettina Moss coming on my show and talking about how, this thing communicated with her. There's a higher level of intelligence. And I'm going to move on here. I hope everybody's following what I'm saying. I had another report. And I have a whole plethora of reports from this one area off of 360 here in Austin. It's heavily wooded, and on the north side of it, there's nothing. There's hardly any. It's just a lot of woods. Go south of there, you start to run into the city. All right, so there's a security guard does patrol for a very large company, and I used to work with him at another company, and he reached out to me not too long ago because a mutual friend of ours who's now a reserve police officer in a small town. And actually that particular guy has been having some health. His family member's been having some health problems, but it's a mutual friend of ours. I've known him for 20 years. And this guy says, hey, I was talking to our mutual friend, whatever, and he said that you had a show, and I would like to tell you something I saw. And he's like, and he's supposed to be gathering some more stories from those guards, that company of guards that are out there, that they've seen this. Some of them say it looks like a werewolf. Some of them says it looks like a Bigfoot. But one thing they all agree on is that it has a snout, like a type of snout, and that the legs look very large and muscular, but they're not the backward bent hawk, that these things stand on or walk on. And so you got these reports of this creature, and one of them claims, he says this is true, and he says he's going to try and get it for me, but he said that one of these things was walking around in the garage on the third floor. And they caught it on camera. When they went to go look at it on camera, he goes, you can kind of make out something wolf-like, like you can see the snout, but it's blurry. But he said when it moves, it jerks like this, and it's like blurry. It blurs out like the predator, then it reappears like a blob. But he said when you see it, when you look at it with your eyes, it looks very much flesh and blood. And he claims to have seen it. And he said that he was like, oh no, I'm going to hit this thing. And he said that it got down on all fours and then it jumped off to the side, and he felt like he went through its legs. But then it was standing right up. And then it went to the ledge and it just disappeared. Now, he don't know whether it jumped through the parking garage or where it went. Chris Clough, thank you for that donation. Like I said, folks, donations are appreciated. Not expected, but they are appreciated. So it's just one of those things. Good evening. Welcome to Fight Night. So anyway, it's just one of those things where, are we dealing with a flesh and blood creature? Are we dealing with something metaphysical? He said that at least 4 people have seen it. Not just in that one garage, but in that whole corridor right there. And it is roaming around near one of these high-profile places. This company is very large. You probably use their products. I mean, this place, I can't say, but It's in that corridor. And he said, dude, it was in the garage. It was black and had red eyes that were self-illuminated. I said that because of the way he described it. He didn't tell me it was self-illuminated, but I think that's what that is. And Amy, thank you for that donation. We appreciate that very much. And then there's an apartment complex not too far from there on that same route that these guys do. And it's up in the hills. It's nice. You have to have a code and everything to get in, and they have security on site. And one of the guards, they have a patrol too. This is where people that have money pay about $3,000 to $4,000 a month for 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, whatever. Oh yeah, Nerat, $10. Thank you for that donation. He says, "Do you have any giant snake, turtle, catfish, or gar stories in Texas?" Yeah, we were going to talk about the San Gabriel River in a little while, and there was a turtle in there, a huge turtle, named Oscar. Caught years ago, and it's weird because there was a turtle in another river that I looked up, and his name was Oliver. So it was very similar, but that's weird. I know turtles and their names with the O's. What is that? I don't call them coincidence. That's a synchronicity. Anyways, this guard was doing his rounds, and the patrol guy pulls up. He's very frantic. Says, dude, I just saw something out of the woods. I just saw something, like 2 things. They looked like 2 wolf-headed looking creatures. I thought it was a guy wearing a mask. And when I saw him stand up, I knew it wasn't. It was like, and there was another one that was hanging on the tree branch. It was pulling itself up. They had come, there was like a big hill right there, like a cliff. They had come off of that cliff. And when you go and you look over the side of that cliff, because I have, you realize there's no way a human's gonna be able to climb up that thing and jump around like that. So he saw it, and he said that it was black. The one was grayish black, and the other one was black. And he said that they both looked very, very big and tall. They were almost the same size. And he said they had big, tall ears, and red eyes. Didn't get a good look at the legs. Sounds very similar to the one that the other guard saw. Now I'm going to get a lot more stories and get into that, because he said that he had an encounter with one of these things out near BK's when he was working out there. And he thought maybe it was just him that he was seeing these things. But when he met those other guards in that other unit, they said, yeah, we've seen them too. I'm going to try and get this guy to come on. I'm not going to get too far into the story because I want him to come on the show and call in and talk about what he saw. I know he's a little bit worried about, his company and all that, and people don't want to lose their jobs. But if I can get him to come on, as long as we don't, tell you the name of the complex, we should be fine. Anyways, that's we've got all these reports of these Dogman creatures, and then going back to what I was saying about the guard that was working at the place by where I lived, and the guy told him I saw this demonic looking thing. That guy quit and went to work for another company that was across the highway down the road, because he didn't want to deal with that anymore. I've driven through that area many, many times, and there is another place that I used to do security for, and one of the workers that works there overnight was near the fence line of this particular place that we don't do security for anymore. And he was doing his job about 4 a.m, and he saw something moving in the bush. And when it ran out of the bush, he said it looked like a giant wolf it was all 4s, but it was gray. But he said it was just humongous. It looked like it was probably the size of a car. He's like, I don't know how something that large could have been on the ground like that. But I said, well, these things are able to flatten themselves out too. A lot of the things that they do defy the laws of physics, folks. And that's another reason why I don't buy into the whole, they're just flesh and blood creatures running around. Maybe they are flesh and blood creatures, but they're able to do things that we can't do. They're able to scale fences and jump onto roofs, just jump up onto a roof, like one of the stories that I got about the hyena-looking creatures. And my buddy Ryan, who's just was in the chat a minute ago under Monster Radio. That's Ryan Tremblay. We talked about that with me, him, and Nelly. This thing was up on the roof or whatever. These things can do all kinds of abnormal things. I mean, they defy the laws of physics just very wantonly. So to me, it doesn't really make sense that this is just some flesh and blood animal type creature, an undiscovered species. Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I mean, so you're going to just completely ignore everything else and just look at like the physical part of it. You're looking at a very small part of it. And just about everybody who has any kind of spirituality, or the natives, or anybody that, you know, they'll all tell you that's not what you're dealing with. That's not what we're dealing with, folks. This is no undiscovered species. Now, maybe it's like Linda Godfrey said, and that they've been living here for a long time. And I've been talking about this for a while, and now I think I've actually figured out how I'm going to do this and what I'm going to do. And I've already talked to about a half a dozen people who are going to be in my book. And I'm going to talk about the book, and I even got a good idea for a name of the book from Ken Gerhardt. And I was telling Lyle today what I'm going to do with the book. Because I'm excited, because now I'm going to have some time coming up in the summer, and I'm going to try to write this thing and get it out. And I'm going to use the little voice speaky thing, whatever, and I've got 2-3 good stories that haven't been told. I'm holding them back to put them just in the book, just for the book. And then I got a bunch of other people who've already interviewed, who I've told their stories, and a lot of these people are willing to put their names out there. Pushed, you know, and they said, okay, you know, and so I'm going to put their stories in this book. And then I'm going to talk about what I know and some of the truths that I understand. And I'm going to make a book about this. And hopefully it's going to be unlike anything it's ever, you know, it's going to be different. Of course, I can't compete with Linda Godfrey. She's obviously the queen of this stuff. But, you know, if I could make a book half as good as one of hers, then I'm happy. But I'm going to talk about some stuff. And I got more stories here. I mean, I could sit here all day and just talk about these Dogman reports and Bigfoot and whatever, you know, and these Bigfoot Dogman hybrid looking thing. I don't know what it is. Gugwee, I mean, you know, or whatever you want. Anyways, I got to make a couple phone calls, folks. We're going to get somebody on here, and we're going to talk about some stuff. So I got to get on here and call this individual. And hopefully you guys will enjoy this, because this is going to be interesting. Work. Hello? Let's try again. Okay. Hang on 1 second, folks. Sometimes you have to do things over and over again. If you have a story you want to be told on the live stream, and you know, just hit me up. Let me know, hey, you know, I would like to come on the show and tell my story, because I'd like to do that every Tuesday. And we've talked so much about Dogman on Tuesdays, we might as well just call it Dogman Tuesdays, because that's what we're doing. Nirad asks a very good question. He says, what do you think of the possibility that there are humans stronger and faster than Sasquatch and Dogman, possibly ruling behind the scenes? That's the truth. It says here, Curtis says, you should definitely ask Linda to do a forward for your book. Yeah, but I got other people too. So hopefully it'll be, and Roy, if you're listening, I'm about to call you right now again. I'm going to call you back. Yeah, I want Linda to do it, but I got a bunch of people who've already offered, but I'm thinking Linda would be the person to do it.
Hello?
Can everybody hear you? Roy, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. I want to make sure. Can everybody hear Roy? How does the audio sound, Anthony? Say something, Roy.
Hey.
So Roy is this is, folks. This is my friend Roy. He's actually a fellow Texan, and you live here in Central Texas. How's this audio? Is it good? Good. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you reached out to me, and you've been a listener to the show, and you were hanging out somewhere, and something happened. You want to talk about it? Just go start from the beginning.
Yeah. Me and my little brother, we like to go night fishing, especially now because we do a lot of crappie fishing. And we went to St. Gable River in by Circleville, and we were there fishing. We probably got there about 7 o'clock. And I asked my brother, say, hey, what time is it? And he's like, oh, it's 1:20. I said, well, let's head back. We've already been there for a while. So we're walking back, and we get in the truck, and we just putting everything up in my truck. And my brother opens the door. While he opens the door, we heard like a woo, but real deep. And my brother looked at me and said, did you hear that? I said, yeah. I said, sounds like when wind blows against a house. And he goes, you think it's the wind? I said, well, it's been blowing. Wind's been blowing all night. That's weird. And he's like, yeah. I said, well, hurry up and get in. So he got in, and he rolled the window down, and he's got a spotlight. So I'm going real slow down this gravel road, and he's pointing the flashlight toward the tree line. And we saw like eyes about the size of a Coke can, about 10 feet up. And I told my brother, did you see that? And he said, yeah. So I reversed it, and it wasn't there again. It was gone. And that was the first time that, we saw something. We hear stuff back there all the time. And it's pretty wooded back there.
So, and this was at the San Gabriel River, right?
Yeah, at the St. Gabriel River, the what they call the primitive dock.
Yeah, and that's near Circleville, and Circleville is right outside of Taylor.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's my hometown, folks. Taylor, Texas is my hometown. So, Roy, you were out there in an area that has, there's been a lot of activity in that area. Let me ask you this, Roy. Is that the only time you've had anything happen out there?
No, I'm going to say about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. It's like 4 years ago. I took one of my friends. He was from Columbus, Texas, and he moved down here. And I took him out there night fishing. Same area, different spot. But we were sitting there. We had our lanterns on. We're just sitting there talking, and we kept hearing something coming toward us. And every time I get up and, get my flashlight and look around, it would stop. The noise would stop. And I said, it must be a wild hog, because we got a lot of wild hogs out there.
Oh, yeah.
And it just kept on and kept on, and it kept getting closer. But, I mean, the woods is thick over there during spring and summer. It's real thick. And I don't know what it was, but this guy's probably, I'm 5'10", so this guy's like 6'3", and he was hiding behind me, and I'm like, dude, it should be the other way around. We just left, man. We just took off. He couldn't take it. He's like, man, he goes, I come out fishing at night, but I don't like when I hear stuff creeping on me. And I said, yeah, that was kind of weird. Another time, me and my brother and my brother-in-law were fishing in the same area, and my brother, he's into flashlights. Man, he has to go buy the powerful flashlight he can get.
Sounds like me. I buy a lot of flashlights.
Man, I ain't lying. He's got a whole bunch, and he was shining his light on the other side of the river. And he kept telling me, "What is that on the other side?" And I couldn't see it from where I was at, so I walked toward where he was at, and we saw, like two sets of eyes, probably about 4 feet in the air. But what was weird is they were pacing us. They were just like watching us. They weren't very big eyes. They were probably, I would say like a little bit bigger than a deer. But the weird thing is whatever it was pacing us. It kept watching us going back and forth. And I thought that was pretty weird because, deer, when you shine a light at them, they take off.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's pretty weird, man. I didn't know what it was.
Well, Roy, let me tell you something. I'm going to be doing an episode about not deer, which is, out there's a ton of deer, and I've seen some big old bucks out in that area. And there's some good, looking deer out there, and a lot of hogs. But I've seen all of them out there. I mean, everything you can think of from out there in that Granger Lake, San Gabriel, that whole area. And one of the stories that I'm going to be talking about is about a knot deer that was seen in that area in between where you were at in the Granger Lake. And I really think that area, it has a really spooky vibe to it. Have you ever been out there by the park by Hoxie Bridge?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's Taylor Park.
Oh yeah, is it where it has a natural trail, a nature trail or something? Yeah, I've been there one time.
Oh yeah, and I've gotten so many reports out there, and I went out there and I did some walking around and investigating. We went out there 3 different times, once during the day, and then once at night, and then once in the evening that became night. And I've gone out there with my nephews and with my wife, and we've all been out there, and we've taken pictures, and we've had so many reports of activity out there. What you saw, there's no telling. Now I know if you go further east of Granger Lake, going toward you follow the San Gabriel, go up toward Thorndale, and of course you know where that's at.
Yeah.
And I know Trey Felton from Thorndale Meat Market is a good friend of mine, and he wrote a book about that whole area, about Apache Pass and all that, about the haunting and all that. But one of the things that I found interesting was that there are stories of these Bigfoot type creatures going all the way from Apache Pass all the way down into Lexington. And I know you know where that's at. And that whole area, there used to be, I don't get so many reports of that anymore, but there were but they weren't overly large, but they to me, they looked like some sort of throwback troglodyte looking creatures. They had this ashen gray looking face, and I think it was their skin just in general looked that way. And they had hair, like a lot of hair, but it didn't look like fur. But they had a weird looking short kind of protruding jaw that looked almost like a muzzle, but to me it was like cavemanish. And I got all kinds of stories out of that area, and then it just kind of slowed down, But in the last, I'd say probably 6 months to a year, I've gotten a couple of Sasquatch stories, but it's kind of like yours, They can't really say because they didn't get like a really good look at it. It was just really big and tall, which makes me think that it could be a Sasquatch. And believe me, that area is so heavily wooded out there that just about anything could probably live out there. And so, it doesn't surprise me. You're about the 3rd person that's told me that they had, a Sasquatch sighting in that area, but yours was the most recent. That's why I was like, oh, you told me about it. And I said, come on the show, let's talk about it. Have you heard any stories or anything? Has anybody else told you anything about that out there?
No, I really never asked. One thing though, I got property in the Villa.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you know where that. I got some property out there, and that's where I deer hunt. And on my deer camera, I got a orb on the deer camera at night floating around,
Mm-hmm.
and you know that was and some weird. I have a like a pond that they try to dig, and it doesn't hold water.
Mm-hmm.
But this last ice storm that we had, it all it rained, it filled up, and I got pictures of a bird, like standing on top of the water from my camera, and I'm like, I can't believe, I would say, oh, he's flying, but his wings weren't out or anything. He's in different parts of the pond, and he's just standing on top of the. You can see he's not in the water because he couldn't. He would sink down. It's probably about 7 feet in the middle, and he's on top of the water.
So weird.
And that
Yeah.
and I got all that, on my game camera. I still got the pictures on my phone.
Man, there's so many people out there in that area right there, near Bartlett, in between Granger and Bartlett.
Uh-huh.
Dude, I've gotten at least 2 or 3 reports of Bigfoot and Dogman in that area. I had a girl that was running. This was back in like 97 or something, but she was jogging and she was here from West Texas, and she was visiting her grandparents that lived right outside of Granger, and she saw this wolf-like thing come up out of the drainage ditch right there by the railroad tracks. You know where the hall is? Is it Moravian?
Yeah.
Hall? What is that? So she goes across the railroad tracks. I don't even know where that's at. And she's jogging, and if you keep going on that road, it'll take you to Georgetown.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So she was jogging on that road back in like the mid to late 90s. She told me this story a long time ago, back when I was working downtown, and a friend of my cousin actually told me, hey, there's this girl that had this report of what kind of like what you saw, because I was always trying to hunt down those reports. And she said this thing jumped up out of the drainage ditch. It got up on its hind legs for a minute, then went back down, and then it kind of shook off, and it looked over at her. It kind of like leaned, and the way she described it too, and I can imitate the way she told me, because she told me in person. And she said she kind of looked around, and it saw there was nobody around, and she said it looked at her like, okay. But then it turned and was facing her like she really believed this thing was about to attack her. She's like, there was no doubt in my mind that she was about to get attacked by this thing. And she's like, and it had the weirdest looking front paws. And I said, well, are you sure they were paws? And she's like, well, I don't know what they were. They looked like hands. But then she said, just then, one of these country boys came riding down with his diesel, flying down the road. And when that truck came, she took off running on the other side of the road and ran back toward the railroad tracks. And this thing jumped back to where it came from and just like disappeared into the bush. And thank God that truck came through there. And she said that when it got up toward the railroad track, she waved him down, and it actually was a guy and his girlfriend. And she jumped in the back seat and said that something that was just, they were like, yeah, we saw that. What was that? And they didn't know what it was. And she said, and then the girl said she lived out there on the other side near Bartlett. And she's like, dude, I've seen so many weird things. And she told her a story, and she relayed this story to me, that one day she was driving home she was driving from Granger to Circleville, and she said that they were going to the Circleville, the hall there in Circleville, the whatever it's called. Yeah. And so she was going to the hall there, and she said that this big wolf-like thing ran out in front of the car real quick, and then ducked down and jumped down into a ditch. But she said it wasn't nearly as big as that one, but it was weird looking, and it had these weird looking paws. She said she thought it was chasing something, but she couldn't see what it was that it chased, but she almost hit it. And so, yeah, I get all these weird stories, and of course that hall there, I got into a very bad fight there back when I was a teenager. nearly got stabbed there. That place used to be really bad, and then it's been several different incarnations, but that hall, it's supposedly haunted too. A lot of weird stuff that's gone on there. But that whole area, man, there's just full of weird stuff, that activity in that area. I can't even tell you like how many reports you get reports all day from there all the way down to Rockdale, and everything in between. just a very haunted place full of sightings. So if I had to ask you this, Roy, what you saw, do you think it was a Bigfoot? Do you think it was a Dogman? I mean, what was the feeling you got of it? Because I mean, you're the one that experienced it, and what do y'all think it was, you and your brother?
I think it was I think it was a Bigfoot because when we were there, like I said, it was real windy, and we kept hearing trees breaking. But when you're out there by yourself, well, just me and my brother, you just kind of put stuff away, and I said, oh, it's just the wind breaking limbs, but it sounded pretty big, and when we heard that noise, that wasn't no bird. It sounded like like somebody would make that noise.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nobody on that side. It's all wooded. Yeah. And I was fishing the weekend before, and I kept hearing a lot of gunshots out there.
Yeah.
And I know you're not supposed to shoot out there because there's it's part of the park and wildlife.
Yeah, the park. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's definitely. Yeah, same thing happened the second time I went out there with Nellie and Zane, my nephew, and we went walking around out there and by the Hoxie Bridge on that trail. Then we went up and down by the water, and we heard gunshots too, and we heard a bunch of hooping and hollering, not from people, but like weird noises. I don't know what they were, but we were just like, and we got the heck out of there because it was almost dark. And I said, dude, we were so far up into the bush that I was like, we're not going to make it back to the truck by dark. And so the last, trek of that hike, which took about half an hour, was in the dark. And that's unnerving when you got those woods on either side of you. And we started hearing something on one side of us. And when we first walked up into that holler, we saw all these deer run across the road like something was chasing them. And so there were no deer on that side. So whatever was over there was predatory, because the deer had run out of there. And so when we were coming back, it was like walking along the side of the woods there, and I thought, man, there's something in those woods. And I just was like, I didn't even have a firearm on me. All I had was a knife, and me and Zane had our hunting knives on us. And my sidearm was in the truck. And so I thought, oh, man, and I didn't even think. I just thought, we're just going to go out there and walk up there and come back. But we ended up going out and going a little further out and walking around. And the next thing you know, it's getting dark and it's starting to get really creepy. But yeah, that area out there can get really creepy at night real quick. Now, what you said about orbs, oh yeah. I've gotten so many reports of them bouncing around on Granger Lake and in San Gabriel and moving back and forth across the creeks and the rivers. And they love to be around that water. And I got some that are blue and some that are green. I had somebody that was out on the lake, and their boat right over, what used to be Friendship, the town of Friendship, is buried underneath that lake.
Oh.
And they were over in their boat, and they were fishing, and they said that this blue orb came up out of the water and just kind of bounced around and went around their boat a couple times and then took off. And then I had someone else that was driving through there, going like if you get on that road, on that county road, I don't even know which one it is, where you turn where Circleville store is at by the bait shop.
Oh, and,
yeah, that county road right there. And if you just keep going and taking it, and you turn a few times, you end up in Rockdale or Thorndale, So they were driving down that road, and they were, just, I think they said north of Thrall, and they saw this like orb go by their vehicle. And when they got a good look at it, it looked like a fairy. It was at night, and it was like a warm summer night from what I remember them telling me, so I know it was really weird. I've seen I've heard of some really weird things. And when I was in Taylor one time at my aunt's house, I thought I saw what looked like a fairy just kind of bobbing around, and I was like, whoa. And that was the second time I'd seen one. The first time I saw one was in San Marcos years ago. But yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff out there, man. Keep me posted if anything else comes up or you have any other encounters or sightings.
I did have something happen to me. It's more paranormal than anything. It happened in like 2007 or 6. My son was about 9 or 10 years old, and me and his mom had split up, and I really loved that lady, and so I would kind of do anything, just try to get close to her and stuff. And well, she called me one day, and she said, "Hey, do you mind coming over?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what's going on?" She said, "Well, there's a lot of weird stuff going on in the house." I said, "Weird stuff?" She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." I was just thinking she was calling me over for, so I was all like, took a shower and got ready. And she told me, "I'm going to leave the door open. I'll be laying down. Just come in." So, all right. So I go over there, and sure enough, the door's open to the house. I lock the door. She's laying down. My son's laying next to her. And she has a little Chihuahua dog. And the dog was sleeping at her feet. And so I was like, "Oh, I'm just going to lay down, I guess." So I laid down, and I probably woke up. All of a sudden, the dog kind of made like a growl noise, and I woke up, and it was probably like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I look at the doorway, and there's a 4-foot black shadow of a person standing there looking at us. And I'm like, what the? So I kind of get up, and I said, "Leave my family alone. We don't want you here." And it goes toward the living room. So I get up and I follow the way it went, and I checked all the rooms. Nothing was there. I couldn't find nothing. And it took me about an hour to go back to sleep. And she's like, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yeah, you called me. You left the door open." But she says she never called me. She doesn't remember none of that happening. And I thought that was pretty weird.
Yeah, that is weird. How long ago was this? When did that happen?
It was either 2006 or 2007. It was a while back. And I used to live in Lamplight Village.
Oh,
That's where our house is at. We had bought a house there.
There in Austin.
Yeah.
Oh wow!
Exactly.
So you were living there in Austin. That's
Yeah.
right there by where my mom used to live.
Yeah. That was pretty weird, man. And I could never figure it out what it was. And I got an older friend of mine that I always tell everything to, and he told me that it was either her or my son's guardian angel, and something bad was going to happen. That's who called me to go over there.
Yeah.
That's what he tells me. He's probably about 80 years old now, but he's still alive. But yeah, he tells me a lot of weird stuff.
Yeah. My mom's house was right there by Schofield.
Yeah, Schofield Farms. Yeah.
So, and then I was sitting in the driveway one time on my laptop doing something because my uncle was using we had an office. My mom had an office in her house. She had a pretty nice big house there, and my uncle was using the computer in there. So I was just sitting on the laptop enjoying the spring air or whatever, and I saw this weird shadow thing just walk, like it was like it came from the neighbor's yard and just walked through her yard and went right by the garage and then looped around. And then next thing you know, my 2 dogs were in the back, just started going crazy because I kept my 2 dogs there, because I had an apartment and they couldn't. I didn't want my 2 my dogs theirs, but they were in the backyard, and so they went crazy. And plus, they could protect her. She was elderly, and so they just went nuts. So they obviously saw it too, and that's weird. And it was probably about a 5-foot tall looking shadow thing. In that same area you're talking about too, my cousin Bo had a weird experience there, and he told me about. They were all hanging out one night, and a transformer blew. An electrical, lightning struck, whatever, and it blew and it was about 2 streets over from Schofield. And they saw this weird looking little short 3-foot tall, I guess in Spanish, little tecuache, little monito, like duende, like it ran down the hallway like real fast. And he said there was like 5 or 6 of them that saw it. And then I ended up talking to one of his friends that attested to it. They were there, and it was him and his girlfriend, and they were like, "Yeah, we saw it. It was like it looked like a little like a little person, you know. But it didn't happen until the lights went out and it was dark for a minute. When the lightning flashed, they saw it. So and that's weird because all that happened right there in that same little area by lamplight.
Yeah, that.
So,
See, my family, we grew up. I don't know if you know where Dessau Dance Hall is.
yeah. Oh yeah. Dessau dance hall. Yep.
Well, right across the street there was an old farmhouse. That's where my grandparents lived, and we saw a lot of weird stuff in that house.
Your grandparents lived in that house?
Yeah. The
That
Martinez
house
family
was there for a long time. Is it still there?
No, they
No.
actually knocked it down. They got apartments there now.
Oh, okay. Man, okay. I think I remember that. I think I remember that house because that place was there for a long time. That on Dessau, yeah. That's man. Because they're building stuff up so fast over there, dude. Like it was like when I was working over there just a few years ago when Nelly first came. I was working off of Harris Ridge, right there off of the road that goes into Dessau, Howard Lane.
Howard Lane.
I was working toward the end of Howard Lane at Harris Ridge, and I saw this weird look. There was some weird stuff that happened there. I saw this weird. It was the weirdest thing. A coyote. Me and my wife saw this. A coyote walked into one of the buildings, and it stayed in there. It didn't come out. So I told my wife. I said, I got to go get this coyote out because if the workers come in the morning, you know, what if this thing goes, you know, so I have to shoo it out, you know. So I went in there and I made a bunch of noise and I shone my flashlight and the back door was closed, so it couldn't have gone anywhere. It was nowhere to be seen. Like I looked everywhere in that house. It was a 3-bedroom house that was being built. And so when I went through there, and this was probably, you know, not even that far, like maybe, you know, not even a half mile from Dessau. And it was the weirdest thing, and it never came out. And we never did figure out what the hell that was or why. You know, my wife was like, that's weird. And like, that was one of the first things that happened when she first came that kind of freaked her out. She was just like, is this place haunted? What's going on with this? And I was like, this whole area is haunted. I told her, you know, that's crazy. Small world. I didn't know that was your grandparents' house. I remember that place.
Yeah. The story that we got, the reason why it was haunted because a German family lived there before, you know, a long while back.
It was settled by the Germans, the Flugers, you know, originally it settled.
Yeah. Yeah. And the son of the son had, I don't know if he shot himself, but he had killed himself in that house.
Yeah.
And why it was so haunted. Mom told me stories about that place, stuff that happened to me when I was younger, when I used to run around. And it just weird stuff happened there. And now there's a apartment complex they just built there. And
right.
I've been wanting to stop there and ask them, have y'all seen any weird stuff?
Weird things happen.
Yeah. It's weird because my uncle, he's 60 years old now. And he told me when he was there at the house and the driveway was probably a quarter mile long, if that, it maybe a half a mile. It was a real long driveway. And he told me that he was at home. It was during the day, and somebody knocked on the door. So he goes to open the door, and he said it was a lady in a white dress and told him that there's money buried in the back, and it was for him. And he said that he closed the door, and he ran to the front to look through the window, and she was gone. He's like, there's no way she could make it up that driveway that fast.
Wow.
And I told him, did you ever go see? And he goes, hell no, I ain't going there.
He didn't ever bother to go check?
Yeah, he never did.
Wow.
He never did. He said he was too scared.
Wow.
And I don't know if you ever remember hearing about the Llorona.
Oh yeah, the Llorona. It's a bit. Oh yeah.
Yeah, man. I was a kid. I was probably, I don't know, 11 years old, 10 years old, and it was during a Christmas. And a lady, my parents, we all, went to my grandma's house and we opened presents. But they were my grandfather and my uncle and my dad were watching wrestling, and somebody knocked on the door, and they could hear a lady crying. But this is the story that my uncle told me because I was asleep. And he said that they, went to the door, and my dad opened the door, and he goes, I don't know what the lady looked like, but she was crying. He goes, I can hear her. And all I remember is your dad cussing her out in Spanish and slammed the door.
Wow.
And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, man. And I asked your dad what it was, and he kept telling me, don't worry about it. And then I guess when he got older, my dad told him what it was, and he said it was the Llorona. And I was like, what? Because there's a creek that runs behind there. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy.
I'm going to tell you this. Here's something for synchronicities. Yeah, just yesterday, I was driving back from Taylor. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't yesterday. It was Sunday night, and I was driving back from Taylor, and I stopped in Hutto to visit my sister, the good one, not the thief, but the good one. And I was talking to her, and then we left, and that's Anthony's mom, and we were driving through Pflugerville on the way back, and we started talking about Pflugerville. And about the set, because it was called Manville, and then it was taken over by the Pfluger family, and then they settled it and it turned it into Pflugerville. It was named after Henry Pfluger, and it became a German community. And we were just talking about that and the history of it, and then you come on and we start talking about it here. And it's funny how this show goes, folks. We just start talking, and it takes you wherever it takes you.
Yeah, I still live here. I live right by the high school.
Oh, really?
The original high school.
The original high school, yeah, where the stadium was, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I live in the houses there. Yeah, I'm still here.
Well, Roy, I'm going to run and try to finish up here. But, dude, it was great talking to you. Thank you for calling in. And being a guest and being from Central Texas and living in the same areas that I've stomped around in and been around in. Was really cool to have you come on. That's why I was like, when you messaged me, I was like, that's great, because I would like to have somebody that's familiar with all this in this area, and come on and talk. So yeah, for sure. I mean, if you ever want to go by there where I seen it, I mean, all you gotta do is call me. I think we need to do that. We need to go out there. But 10-foot tall Bigfoot. Let's go in the daytime.
Yeah,
with about 12 of us, heavily armed. Yeah. I mean, 10-foot tall. And what color were the eyes?
If you remember the old flashlights, they had that chrome. Yeah, they were like, they had that chrome. It had that chrome look. That eye shine, that white, I guess you can call it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the color they were. They weren't yellow. They weren't red. They were like that white eye shine.
Man, and too bad you guys didn't get a better look at it. I mean,
yeah, well, I didn't really want to look at it any better, but
when you're in the heat of the moment, though, I mean, it's like you're like, oh man, you just want to get out of there. You're scared, and then everybody's like, why didn't you get a picture? And it was like, yeah, well, why don't you just stand there in front of an animal and let it eat you? I mean,
yeah, yeah, exactly, man. I reversed just to see if we can get a better look, but it either was not looking at us or had his eyes closed, but it was gone. I mean, it was just a split second. It wasn't even that long, because I just passed it and then I reversed it and it was already gone. I mean, I was like, wow. My brother said, do you think it's an owl? I said, dude, there ain't no owl got no eyes that big.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Roy, I appreciate you calling in, man, and us talking. We'll stay in touch. And thank you for supporting the show and listening.
Okay, yeah, man, for sure, man. I love listening to I listen to it at work, man, and everybody at work knows who you are.
Where do you work at?
I work for an appliance company called Factory Builder Store.
Oh, okay.
I've been there 22 years.
And I like how you're open. You're not like afraid to say your name or whatever. A lot of people are like, oh, don't change my name and don't say where I work and stuff like that. And you're just like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
But I appreciate that, your honesty and.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, I was always taught you got to be 100, man. You can't beat around the bush.
Yeah. Well, beating around the bushes can get you squashed by a Sasquatch.
It gets you hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So Roy Garza, everyone, thank you for coming on, Roy, and talking. I appreciate your time, man. You be safe out there.
All right, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
So, folks, that's crazy. 10 foot tall, 10 feet up in the tree. I mean, oh my gosh. And that's weird because the last several months I've been getting reports of something really large, not to that height, but like 8 feet, something. And I'm not convinced that it's a Dogman or a Bigfoot or maybe something in between, one of these weird in between creatures. Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, this whole area, just full of stuff. I was supposed to have another guest come on tonight and talk, and I don't know, we're going to be able to do it. We had so much stuff to talk about. These Bigfoot reports that I get out of there, and there's another area where I had gotten some reports from in Central Texas, and you're looking at like very big, large creatures. Because there's a lot of woods here in Texas, and there's a lot of places for them to hide. They could stay hidden for indefinitely, and they could just, or they could live under the ground. One of my listeners, okay, she had asked in the Paranormal Round Table group where I think these creatures come from, if they're not genetically created or whatever. The inner Earth is one theory. Interdimensional is another theory. Or people that can change. That's another theory. I just, there's so many different, it just seems like anytime I think I've closed the door to something and I thought I've figured it out, something weird pops up, and like I said, I'm going to be writing this book, and I'm not just talking here. I really want to do this. I want to figure this out. I'm going to get it done. And I want to lay some stories out there for people who've told me their encounters, and then I got a couple, about 3 right now that I want to tell on there that I've never told on any of my shows. That way, you have an incentive. Oh, you already heard all this. Well, you haven't heard this. And I'm going to interview these other people for my book, that I've told their stories either on this show, or they've told their stories, or I've told it on the other show that I was on. I'm sorry, folks. I'm really worked out last night. I'm a little sore. My neck's kind of stiff. But I'm going to get into this. I'm going to get into all that, and I'm going to try and give you guys my thoughts and ideas, and postulate on some ideas about what these things are, where they come from, and what, some of the conclusions I've come to. Because if you look at the different stories, okay, so for example, if you take Phil Stern's story, I told his story on DER. At the time, I didn't use his name because he didn't give me permission, and later on he said, okay. And you listen to what he saw. It sounds very much like a werewolf, like the way it looks, the way it moved, the way it was built, If you look at what Bettina saw, that could have been anything. Was it flesh and blood? Was it something that was metaphysical, pretending to be flesh and blood, or manifesting as flesh and blood? That's what I think it was. But it knew who she was, and it was aware, like of her and her existence, obviously prior to her seeing it. And then you look at what Nick Valente saw, and you take his encounter, and you're like, oh my gosh, dude, that sounds like a skinwalker, because it happened on the Lamapee Reservation, And then you take all these different encounters, and they all tell a little bit of a different story. Ryan Tremblay, he saw something that looked like a hyena type cryptid, and then my friend Phil, he saw something that looked hyena type, whatever. And you take all these different encounters, and gosh, it's like a goulash of just, who knows? One of my friends from Taylor, that she saw something with her brother and her mom in December of the year that I saw what I saw. And it was just the same thing, basically, that I saw. And so when you take all these things together, you're going like, what, each encounter could be, what are we dealing with? Because each encounter could be its own thing. It could all be different, or they could all be part of the same, puzzle, But that's what I want to do with my book, is break down these encounters and go in and talk about what I've learned, what I've uncovered, and what I have learned to be my truths, you know. And I'm not sure where I stand with all this, because there's just so many different avenues that you can go down. When you start going down these rabbit holes, it just goes on and on and on. And I've just gotten so many reports. You go to Brenda Armstrong, she's gotten more activity that's been going on in her ranch that she lives on out there in Brenham. You know, and you get all these people that have told me their stories, and they're all different, but they all have a common thread: a werewolf-looking creature. But I think that you could go into each one of them and say, this is what could be going on here. This is what be going on here. And that's what I'm going to do when I do this book. I'm going to write down the people that saw the two Dogman looking creatures in Hico, however you want to say it, Hico, Texas. That's another one I want to revisit, you know, and one of them since then has seen another one. And so, you got the ones out of Mason County that to me look like a Dinopithecus. They could be, you know, and I talked to a guy at a dinner party not too long ago who was from there and said there was a lot of weird stuff that would go on there. He never saw anything like that, but he didn't doubt it. He was like, I wouldn't doubt it. You know, it's very rural, but there's a lot of weird activity out there, and there's a lot of predation from unknown predators, you know, killing people's cattle, and they find deer, you know, torn apart all weird. And, you know, a lot of people think, well, it's just, maybe it's a Sasquatch. But this thing, these things that these kids saw in Mason, I don't think that was a Sasquatch. I don't know that it was a werewolf. It could have been a giant baboon looking thing. Or it was a giant baboon looking thing, but it could have been a giant baboon, like a prehistoric baboon or something. I don't know. Anything could be living in these woods. I mean, there's so much of it everywhere. You know, Texas has so many different terrains, and there's so many rural. You could drive for miles in Texas, just rural. I mean, just rural. Drive from Junction to El Paso, you'll be like, what in the heck? Where are the people? You know, East Texas just full of thick pines and woods, and just, you know, you go to Sam Houston National Forest, and you go to these different places, and you're just like, dude. You know, just go out to McKinney Falls out here in Austin, the state park. You know, and you get lost out there just running around. There's those falls and all that. They filmed that movie Predators out there. All that stuff. There's all kinds of stories of stuff out there. Bigfoot, Dogman. People see these weird bird-looking creatures. I mean, you know, it's unbelievable. Somebody told me that it's because Austin has all this limestone and salt deposits everywhere. Because this was all part of an inland sea, folks. If you look at, like, the history, you know, this was all part of an ancient inland sea. All the way up the middle of the United States. The United States was divided millions of years ago. You know, big ocean in the middle of it. It was a very shallow inland sea. And it was patrolled by like sharks that, you know, from your horrible imagination. Like you couldn't even imagine. And these reptiles. I mean, just giant reptiles. I personally think that the minerals and all that, I think it has a lot to do with what, you know, the vibration and all. I think that has a lot to do with it. People don't take those into account, you know. I mean, the apex predator in Texas at one time was a mosasaur. You know, it was an aquatic animal. Texas has a lot of history. You know, just like me and Barton were talking about the history of Kentucky and all the weird stuff that goes on over there. And in his book, Mysterious Kentucky, you know, the history of Kentucky it's crazy from its prehistory through the Mesoamericans, you know, up until now, and then the settlers and everything that's gone on there. It was considered a cursed place that you shouldn't set up roots in. Now, this is over on top of a cave system, mammoth cave system. So, you know, you're looking at like a place where probably should, you know, habitat, it probably shouldn't even be inhabited because of all the bad stuff, you know. And the natives were like, why would you live there? It's the dark and bloody ground. It's a bad place, you know. There's a lot of places in Texas, you know, named Devil this, like Devil's Backbone, Devil's Creek, Devil's Canyon, you're all these different places. And where do you think those names come from? Why do you think that those names exist? I mean, you know, you look at the 411. I mean, he makes a point, you know, like, why are these places all Devil's this and Devil's that, you know? You know, so. Anyways, folks, it's 10 o'clock, and I'm going to have to get out of here. I got some things I got to take care of. We will get into some more stories next week. I had a guest that I was going to have come on today, but we ran out of time. And I hope that he comes on next week. Ryan Edwards, and actually, he was the one that, you know, I apologize to you, Ryan. I hope you're listening, and we'll get you on next week. And I know Lyle's supposed to come on too, but I don't think he's going to be on that long. He's going to talk about his podcast. Ryan says the Western Interior Seaway was the ocean that covered the middle of America. It was home of plesiosaurs, mosasaurs, and let me get my glasses on so I don't butcher this. And Deinosuchus, yeah. Absolutely. Jaden says, more Hernandez, please. Yes, that will happen. Not this coming Friday, because we wrap it up with the Dogman stuff with Bettina. And then the week after that would be either a paranormal potluck or a not deer. And then 2 weeks of Hernandez Ranch goodness. Creepy stuff. And I want to apologize. You know, somebody said that I'm always on here making fun of people. Okay, I'm going to apologize right now for that. I am not making fun of enough people. So to you that was complaining about how I'm making fun of a lot of people, and I get what you're saying. I need to make fun of more people. That needs to happen. I'm sorry, I'm not. I've been not on my A game. They said I'm always making fun of the Dogman Whisperer, and he's really not like that, and he doesn't talk like that. Well, that's your opinion, okay? I'm going to give you 3 minutes to make up your mind. And I ask you this, person who want to make comment in the YouTube session, do you feel lucky, pal? Do you? But you don't want to mess with me. I'm talking to the Dogman. Shut up, Dogman. Dogman, he wrong. I come to your property and I tell the Dogman, hey, shoo, you go away, Dogman. Because he's just an animal. And the animal listen to the human. And the human tell the Dogman what to do. Because it is a dog and a man. Okay? Right, Alice? That's right. That's absolutely right. Thank you, Dogman Whisperer. Alice Smith here. I'm going to tell you right now. This is an animal we're dealing with. It's not a demon. It's not a human. It's an animal. And my friend, the Dogman Whisperer, he's going to prove it. He's going to find it. I'm telling you right now. And my goofy friend, Mr. Pyrus, me and him, we go to our rallies, you know, the Communist Party and all that, and we talk about these things, and we're like, hey, there's no spirits, there's no afterlife, there's nothing but us flesh and blood, and when you die, you just become worm food. That's all it is. All this hocus pocus about demons and shapeshifters, man, that's all a bill of goods that this crazy Josh Tan is trying to sell you. I don't believe all that. No matter how many people come on and tell their story. I refuse to believe that. I think it's an animal that just happens to look like a man and has man-like arms and does things like a man, but it's still an animal. A half man, half dog animal type thing from evolution that evolved somehow this way. And even though it may sound ridiculous, what Alice is saying is true. That's how it is. It's a little creature that evolved into a big creature to become the Dogman. And you'll tell me I come to your property and I will make it run away. Okay? Yeah, because, you know, the Dogman, you know, it's a Dogman. It's a Dogman. It's a going around the toxic waste dumps. It's Dogman. 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 Okay, folks. We're going to talk about Dogman. So there you go. I think what the person was asking me in the comment section of that was that they wanted me to make fun of these people more because they said I was always making fun of them. And what I took away from that was like it needed to happen more. So I'm trying to please you. Okay? All right? I mean, you're very lonely. And I know a Dogman therapist that might be able to help you. I don't know what's going on with you. I can't imagine how hard it must be for you. Okay? But if you come on my show, and I'll tell you most of what to say, and well, I'll just tell you what to do, and then you can, you know, just make it up from there, and you know what I'm saying, and we can imagine what that'll be like. Did I leave anybody out? I mean, that's what you want, right? You want me to make fun of people, right? Was that what you were asking? Oh. I got my enemies, folks, and it eats their heart out because they watch my show. That's the sad part is they come to my show and they watch me and then they troll me and they're so mad. They're like, I hate him. They're like the wolf on the Mighty Mouse. Oh, Mighty Mouse ruins everything. Oh, he makes me mad. You know what? Go do your own thing. Stop worrying about me. Every time somebody says something negative in the comment section, they're like, hello, did someone say Josh Turner? Let's talk about him. Like Fire Marshal Bill on freaking, you know, on steroids, dude. He just show up. Let me tell you something. Can't listen to him. Hate his guts. Because you are wrong. Can't tell you how many times I get trolled by these people. And I just finally, I think they gave up because they were just so tired of it. And so now anytime there's a conflict with anybody, even a little bit of peep of something, saying something negative, they're right there, man. They show up. There's 3 of them in particular. Hello, hello, hello. And they're right there, you know, ready to go. Let's go. Writing a big old dissertation about me. And then they're crying, he won't stop making fun of us. Ah, my God, stop. Well, you started it. Let's go to the little playground. You want to talk about it? You mess with my wife and she was in the freaking hospital. Called me every name in the book. Slandered me every which way you could, and all the time. I'm gonna drop these people every time. Their go-to is, I got screenshots of you saying naughty things. Then where are they? Put them out there. Let's read them. Who gives a crap? Like, who really gives a holy crap what you have to say? You're stupid, and your freaking shows and all the research, all the things you do are stupid. You have no evidence. You have nothing. You don't even have people that can back up or verify anything you say. You have one or two lunatics. You went out to the property and said, yeah, he came out here and he got rid of the Dogman. He came out. Okay, if he came out there and got rid of it, then it was a figment of your imagination to begin with. Case closed. I don't need this guy to come to my property and do anything. Get out of here. But people have spoken, and they want more people to be made fun of. Sorry, folks, I don't have more enemies to make fun of. I only have a handful of them. But you know, if I had a nickel for every time I was criticized, I mean, I would literally have like $2. Okay. I'm sorry, folks. I just, you know, these people, this is bad comedy. You know what I mean? That's what they are. They're bad comedy. It's just, how do you go to sleep at night and not look in the mirror and laugh and go, man, I am a freaking joke. I am a clown. I jump on people's threads in groups and I attack people all the time. You know, Ken Gerhardt says something, I jump on there. You've been doing all this research, Key? Why'd you not find the Bigfoot or the Dogman? Then his buddy Alice shows up. Hi, Alice Smith here. Mick Taylor. You know. Then they get chased off, and then it's like, oh, Josh Turner's a bully. He came and he's just him and his friends. I wasn't even involved in that. I wasn't even involved in running you off. I wasn't even involved in it, and I still got blamed. It was me and the Manson family, dude, whatever. Dude, shut up. Shut up with your face. It's horrible. These people never get enough. Never. They pick fights and you can't finish it. Be smarter. I don't know. Be more intelligent. And pick fights. Congratulations to everybody that won. One last thing, folks. We got Eric Garcia. Thank you for that donation. Thank you for everybody that donated. I appreciate it. The money just goes right back into the show to produce the show. I wanted to say something. We're going to drop this episode on the official link. Will be on the Paranormal Round Table group. And then you can go onto the Paranormal Round Table group and you can leave a comment and you may be picked to win a book, an autographed book and or some PRT merch or something or another. Who knows? I always throw stuff in there. But for everybody that was listening tonight, everybody that participated and everybody who watches the show, thank you for coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for staying. And I will try to make fun of people more often on here because the people have spoken. They said that he's making fun of people a lot. And we want to ramp that up. We don't want it to be a lot. We want it to be all the time. He's always making fun of people. So every episode, I will try to make fun of some people. I just don't have I only have like half a dozen enemies. So I got to, you know, I can only bash them so much, dude. I'm trying, dude. You know, people are like, oh, there's always this drama in there. Always. He's always doing drama. There's always drama on his show. He's always talking drama. No, I'm not. Most of the time, I just ignore stuff, dude. Don't even care. You know, it's like, what do I care about these people? It's just that I don't miss opportunities to poke fun of them. I'm here to entertain. I'm here to, you come here to listen to the stories and have a good time, and we cut up. It's like a big party in here. It's a big nightclub. We have a great time. We're here to have fun. I don't pretend to be a therapist because I know I'm not. I'm not qualified to be a Dogman therapist. But can you imagine that, being a Dogman therapist? Come on in. Come on in. Have a seat. Have a seat. Thank you for coming today, Don. So Donald, tell me, how are things going with your Dogman? You know, tell me what's going on with this creature that you're seeing. It's terrible, Doc. I can't sleep. I'm taking Viagra. I'm doing everything I can do to try to not. I don't know, man. I mean, maybe I need more prescriptions, or I don't know what's going on with me, man. I can't even think straight. I'm so scared. I go to the bathroom. I think it's going to come up out of the toilet and grab me, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm just so, well, you know what? I'm here to help. Okay. I'm here to help. I have a show, and I'm going to put you on that show, and I'm going to let you babble on about and just talk stupid for an hour. And that, folks, will get us through. Because that's what I do. I am a therapist, a Dogman therapist. Okay. All right. You think it'll help? Yeah, it'll definitely help. Here, take this microphone. Okay. Read the script. If you deviate from it, I'll stop and tell you what to say too. So just don't worry. We'll get you through this. Oh, thanks, Doc. I'm so glad you're here to help me with my Dogman problem. How long have you had this? Well, it started when I was 7. I was seeing this thing that looked like a dog. And you ever seen the show Wilfred? Oh no, that's what it looked like? Yeah, pretty much. Ooh. Oh, okay. Okay, here's the problem with that, Don. My audience is not really going to be afraid of Wilfred. So, okay. Look, you know what? Gray? It's gray. Wilfred's gray. That's great. We'll go with that. We'll start off with gray. But the floppy ears, that's got to go. Let's turn the ears into 20. Let's make them 20. You think that'll help? Absolutely. Oh, okay, so you want me to lie and say that the ears were up, yeah. And then, he didn't really have a big, a snout, and he kind of looked floppy and frumpy. Let's streamline him a little bit, make it more muscular. Like he's been in the gym every day for, years. Okay. Yeah, okay. So go ahead and just let me write all this down for you. Okay. Go ahead and read that. Okay, so I was walking through the woods and I saw this gray creature with tall ears, like a dog with a big snout, and he had legs like a dog, but he looked like Wilfred, though. He didn't have the... Yeah, I get that, but for the therapy that we're doing, we need to make it more dramatic, okay? All this drama that you're holding in, it's got to come out. It's got to come out, and you have to appeal to to the audience, and that is how you're going to heal. That's how you're going to heal. I can't imagine what you went through. Okay, all right. Well, if you think it'll help to say all this bullcrap, I'll do it. Let's not call it bullcrap. Let's call it stretching. Stretching the boundaries of truthitude. Okay. All right. So I saw this gray thing and it had legs backwards like a wolf. Does this say hungry like a wolf? Yeah, I thought I'd throw that in for dramatic effect, but it sounds too Duran Duranish. Let's not put that in there. That's it. But you're doing good. You're doing good, Don. Go on. Okay, so what do? I'm going to record this, and then it's going to come on a show. And a bunch of lunatics are going to listen to it, and they're going to believe it. Oh, man. Yeah, these people fooled, dude. They're so stupid. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you hear me say that, Don? Yeah. Well, that was just me. I'm messing with you. I'm playing. Come on, man. I'm playing, Don. I'm just messing with you. This is all part of the therapy. It is? Yeah, it's all part of the therapy. Now go ahead and tell that story. Let me get recording. And then a bunch of people will go and listen to it and go, wow, that guy, he's the greatest. got these people that tell these amazing stories. You see these stuff, and then in this, yeah, it's incredible. Incredible. And then when that doesn't work, then he goes to the Dogman whisperer. And then he comes and crawls around your roof to expurgate this creature from your life. Either way, there's people out there that will give you help. They will help you. So, there you have it, folks. Next time something shows up at the foot of your bed, come on, answer. Doc, I'm having a flashback. Oh, yeah, you were on my show like 2 weeks ago. Yeah, remember you told me to tell that stuff about Wilford that wasn't, you know. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, I gotta go. Click. Well, hello? Hello? I don't know why he's not helping me. I guess the therapy was temporary, wasn't it? That's okay. You're strong. You'll get through it. I believe in you. You'll find another therapist. Anyways, folks, that's all I had the time I had for today. I'm going to leave you with a reenactment of the slap heard around the world, right? Okay, I'm going to do my impersonation in slow motion of this. G.I. Jane 2, can't wait to see it. Oh, she's like, don't talk about my wife. Chris Rock. Wow, I just got slapped. I'm sorry, but Chris Rock is a very small individual, so when you slap him, shouldn't he fall down? I think it was a real slap, but like I told people, I just think he's just weak. He's not a good slapper. So maybe next time he needs to use a strong hand or something. And don't laugh at the joke first and then go do it. Okay, everybody's like, oh, you should give his Academy Award. Who gives a crap? I don't even know what kind of award they gave him. I don't even know. It could be for being the still Prince of Belcher. It could be some movie he made. I have no idea. The bottom line is that was a weak slap. Chris Rock was not hurt. Other than maybe he made him angry or embarrassed him, whatever. But he was laughing. He thought it was funny until he looked over and saw her going. Yeah. Then he goes, oh, well, I better do something. So then he did it. I'll see you guys. Comments. Exactly. I'll see you. Remember Friday, Bettina Moss, part 3.